Trouble on Sunside ****** Trouble on Sunside by S.M. Tenneshaw. Jansen came to Mercury to find one man, and that seemed an easy enough task. The hitch was that as a hunter he was also being hunted. Transcriber's note: this text was produced from Imagination Stories of Science and Fantasy, October 1956. Extensive research did not uncover any evidence that the U.S. copyright on this publication was renewed. Jansen began to sweat as soon as he left the spaceship. The bloated, swollen sun hovering near the horizon here in Twilight Zone was dazzling even through his protective goggles. Jansen knew he would have to get used to it. Mercury's Twilight Zone, like it or not, would be his home for the indefinite future. Stowing his gear in the barracks while sweat streamed from his body, Jansen realized for the first time that his luggage had been examined aboard the spaceship. That was bad. It could mean anything. It certainly meant trouble. I have to hurry, Jansen thought. In a day or so, they're liable to haul me in for questioning. Still time for me to go out and join the workforce. Jansen asked the barracks orderly as the old man came shuffling by. Eager, ain't you, mister? They'll get along without you till tomorrow, you can bet. Well, can I go take a look, then? The old man studied him with surprise. Apparently gold bricking and not eager beavering was the order of the day here. What's your rating? The orderly asked. 12. Well, nobody would push you around, I guess, admitted the barracks orderly with grudging respect. Why don't you see the town, though? Town's all right. Don't go out to the bogs unless you have to. Bogs, thought Jansen. Bogs on Mercury's Sunside. He still couldn't get over it. Jansen changed into a skin-tight white insulshoot and went outside. The insulshoot covered him almost like an additional layer of skin. He wore trousers and a shirt over it. Without the insulshoot, exposure this close to Mercury's Sunside would be impossible for more than a few moments. It took Jansen 20 minutes to realize he was being followed. His tail wore an insulshoot and a pair of colorful shorts. This seemed to be the universal garb in Sunside City, so that the hundreds of loungers and shoppers all looked alike, with the skullcap cowls of their insulshoots even hiding the distinctiveness of their hair. Jansen's tail was a man bigger than most, though, and it was only because he was wandering aimlessly in the sun-dazzled streets that Jansen became aware of pursuit at all. He ducked into an alley between two cafes. Two women in skin-tight insulshoots came by, then a man and a boy, then the big man who had been following Jansen. Abruptly Jansen stepped from the alley. Just a minute, he said. The man whirled, a blank expression on his face. What do you want? Jansen asked. I don't get you, mister. You stopped me, I didn't stop you. What do you want? You were following me, Jansen said. I never saw you before in my life. Before Jansen could answer, the sun went down. It did not set, as the sun sets on Earth. It disappeared, due to the sudden unpredictable wobbles of Mercury's twilight zone. It was an astronomical phenomena. And, despite the sun's great apparent size, Jansen suddenly found himself in pitch darkness. It alarmed him at first, until he realized that Mercury had no atmosphere, except for the artificial pockets under the man-made domes. There was no layer of air to retain the sun's glow. One moment, dazzling light, the next, almost total darkness. "Where are you?" Jansen called. He groped his way toward where the man had been standing. He heard a girl's laughter on the street nearby, heard an old woman's shout. Something struck the side of his head, summoning blinding pain. Jansen staggered and fell to the sidewalk on hands and knees. He felt himself being frisked expertly in his half-conscious state. Something was removed from his trouser pocket, his wallet probably. He tried to get up but fell forward, scraping his jaw. He heard retreating footsteps. "Number one botch job," he thought, and lost consciousness. When he came to, he was not alone. He was no longer on the sidewalk, either. He had been taken into a house. He found himself looking at a girl in insulshirt and shorts. The forehead piece of the girl's skin-tight cowl came down in a sharp widow's peak, in the current feminine fashion. It made her entire face, with its high cheekbones and long narrow eyes and small, stubborn, pointed chin, look somewhat aquatic. She was a very pretty girl and her figure under the revealing insulshirt was breathtaking. "You're all right, Mr. Jansen?" she asked. Jansen. She'd called him by his name. He was on his guard at once. He'd gotten work at the Sun Station Employment Office on Earth as Wilson. His name was unknown here on Mercury, except to the person who'd gone through his bags aboard ship and the big man who'd taken his wallet on the street. He nodded his head slowly. His head ached and he felt weak and washed out, but he could feel the strength flowing back into him. The woman smiled. Then the smile left her face so quickly, it startled Jansen. "We don't want you here," she said. "We don't want you on Mercury, Jansen." He stood up. "Thanks for dragging me in off the street. I'll get out of here now. Leave Mercury, Mr. Jansen. While you still can." He headed for the door, his temple throbbing with pain. She helped him across the room coolly, efficiently, supporting his shoulder but barely seeming to touch him. He wished his head was clearer. He wanted to question this girl. She knew him, she'd had him tailed. "Get out while you can," she was saying. "Remember what happened to your brother." He whirled on the threshold and pushed her back into the room ahead of him. "Go ahead," he said coldly. "Tell me about my brother." Her face told him she knew she'd blundered. "Just get out of here, you fool," she cried. "Tell me about my brother." "He's dead." "What does it matter except he's dead?" "How did he die, Miss Hilliard?" She gave him a startled look. You know me. I guess. You're Wendy Hilliard, aren't you? Why yes. He used to write me about you, Jansen said bitterly. Girl Friday or something. But when he started to go down you took off like the well-known rats. Didn't you, Wendy? Her hand struck his cheek stingingly. Now clear out, she said, her voice catching on a sob. He laughed harshly. Well, what did you expect? It's why you had my things searched on the ship, isn't it? It's why you had that big guy follow me. Wendy Hilliard's face was white. I didn't have your things searched on the ship, she said. He looked at her searchingly. She meant that, he knew. Oh, don't you see, she said, clutching his arm. Don't you see? It was Berrine, Mr. Jansen. I know you're here and Berrine knows it. It was Berrine who had your brother killed and, why? Jansen asked. Because he knew too much. Because Berrine is going to become the richest man in the solar system and Ted got an inkling of what was happening. You seem to know, Jansen said dryly. But you're still here. So what happened to Ted? Look, Mr. Jansen. Let me give you about a 5-minute course in Mercurian economics. Here at Sunside Station, we produce food for Earth's teeming billions. Since directly or indirectly, all food is stored solar energy, and since we're much closer to the sun here, food energy is produced abundantly and not expensively. I know all that, Jansen said irritably. Let me finish. You'll see why. What we grow in the Sunside bogs is chlorella, millions of tons of chlorella, which is converted into synth steak and other pseudo-meats on Earth. Now, there are 2 keys to the production. The first, of course, is water. Chlorella must grow in bogs, which means artificial irrigation. The second is the subspace tunnel. You know about that, Jansen. Call it a hole in space which shortcuts the distance between Mercury and Earth. The chlorella is shipped earthward through this subspace tunnel, not only instantly, but cheaply. Berrine works the tunnel, Mr. Jansen. Berrine's men control the irrigation station. Berrine is now in a position to demand any price he wishes from Earth for the chlorella. If Earth doesn't agree, Earth starves. That's why your brother was killed. He learned about this before Berrine was ready to strike. He's almost ready now, Mr. Jansen. Where do you fit in? If Ted was killed, Wendy's face colored. I wanted to go on living, Mr. Jansen. I didn't want to die. I can't be an idealist if my own life. What did you do? His hand gripped her wrist. Did you turn Ted over to Berrine? She struck his face a second time. I loved your brother. I wouldn't have done a thing like that. Then what? I told you what you wanted to know. I don't have to tell you more. Now get out of here. She followed him to the door. But you have to leave Mercury at once, you see, she said. Berine can't afford to let you live. Berine will have you killed. The way they tell it on Earth, Berine's a loner. If he goes, the whole outfit folds and will play ball with Earth the way it ought to. Is that the way you see it? Yes, but you thought I was here for revenge. I am, baby. Don't get any wrong ideas. But I've also got a job to do. Earth needs that chlorella. He opened the door. Jansen, well. Nothing. Just be careful. He laughed harshly and walked out into the darkness. The man's name was Denison. He had the bunk next to Jansen's in the barracks and he, like Jansen, was a newcomer. He'd shipped to Mercury from the Venusian dust desert in search of greener pastures. Jansen felt sorry for him, then ruthlessly beat down the feeling. He had no time for pity. While it was still dark, he followed Denison outside the barracks and thrust a mugging arm around his neck. Denison struggled, his arms flailing, his legs drumming. Once he almost broke loose, but Jansen held him until he had lost consciousness. A day, Jansen thought. Berine knows I'm here, so all I can expect is a day now. He dragged Denison into a storage shed. The slight effort left him drenched with sweat, despite the insulshut. He found rope and bound Denison, then took tape from his pocket and gagged him. 10 minutes later he returned to the barracks with Denison's identification papers. Andrew Denison, he thought. I'm Denison now. Berine's men would be looking for Frank Jansen, he knew. But unless Wendy Hilliard told them, they wouldn't know what Jansen looked like. I'm Denison. He slept poorly. He dreamed but in the morning did not remember his dreams. When he awoke, Mercury had wobbled sufficiently for the twilight zone to be in sunlight again. Rise and shine, men, a supervisor's voice blared over the loudspeaker. Got some gunk to harvest. Jansen watched the men get up, groaning and complaining, in the barracks. Gunk was the supervisor's word for chlorella, Jansen thought. Looking at the men he decided they had other words for it, none of them printable. For, although the pay was good, it was sheer hell working on Mercury and the average employee at the chlorella box didn't stay more than 3 months. With the others Jansen went outside and piled onto one of the half-dozen swamp buggies which came for them. The buggies were surplus Army amphibian vehicles and rattled noisily over dry ground. They formed a line, single file, and headed through the domed corridor that connected Sunside City, which was actually in the Twilight Zone, with the books themselves, which were on the sun side of Mercury. If it had been hot in the city, despite man's best air conditioning efforts, it was murderously hot in the bogs. The sun burned down on the dome and through it. The irrigation water evaporated rapidly, so rapidly that the dehumidifiers could not carry it away quickly enough. As a result, the bogs were not only terribly hot, but humid as the inside of a Turkish bath. Jansen felt washed out before he'd even begun his work. The swamp buggies took them to a field of chlorella, the valuable plant growing like a thick coating of slime on the bogs. The men, moving slowly to conserve energy in the heat, climbed down from the buggies and attacked the chlorella by sweeping the surface of the bogs with their muscle-powered harvesters. Jansen smiled in spite of himself. Agricultural methods 5,000 and more years old. It couldn't be helped on Mercury, of course. Most available machinery was needed on Earth, for Earth's billions. The metal for machinery was at a premium. The great iron mines of 2 centuries before were almost exhausted and no new supply had been found on any of the planets, at least none which could be mined productively at slight enough cost. Result: the outworlds got along with primitive methods or didn't get along at all. Denison, Jansen discovered, had a rating of 6. It was not as bad as it could have been, but a good deal worse than Jansen's own 12. At least Denison wasn't a harvester. Instead, Denison had been assigned to the packing platforms, and that was where Jansen found himself working. Here the chlorella was dried in the fierce sun and baled. The baling, of course, was done by hand, and the chlorella, dry enough for baling but still sodden, was heavy. Afterwards, Jansen knew, it would be taken to the subspace tunnel and shipped to Earth without even the necessity of dehydration. All morning Jansen worked in hot, stifling silence. Whenever a supervisor came in his direction, he half expected a heavy hand to fall on his shoulder and an accusing voice to call out his real name. At lunch hour he wandered off, all but exhausted, into the scant shade of one of the compound shacks. He sat there, popping energy tablets into his mouth. He was too weak to eat food, although he saw it being served from big trays perhaps 50 yards away. Jansen, a voice called softly. He looked up quickly, his eyes taking seconds to focus in the almost blinding glare. It was Wendy Hilliard, looking amazingly cool in her insole shirt and shorts. He reached up and grabbed her arm, pulling her down alongside him. "How did you find me?" he demanded. "It was an accident," although her voice trailed off. "Although what?" "You're hurting me." "Although what, Miss Hilliard?" Well, I was looking for you, Jansen. I want to help you." "Sure," he said, a trace of bitterness in his voice. She smiled. "I'd say you need some help. You look all washed out. Your sympathy is touching." "Did you say the same thing to Ted, before he was killed?" "You fool. I liked your brother." "He used a different word." "All right. I loved him. He's dead now. We can't bring him back to life. So what do you want?" "Berine's here. In the bogs today." Instantly, Jansen was alert. He could feel fresh strength surge through his muscles, his blood. Berine. At last, he thought, Berine. For Ted. And for Earth. Ted had been an Earth agent on Mercury. Jansen was not, Jansen had been prospecting in the asteroids when he heard of Ted's death. But he'd gone to Ted's agency at once and offered his services. Now he was here, where Ted had been. Now he was in Ted's place. What would Ted have done? He didn't know. But he had his orders. They were explicit and ruthless. You will report to Sunside City, they had told him. You will seek Berrine out. Without Berrine, the organization he has built up will crumble. With Berrine, it will gain control, complete control instead of managerial control, of the irrigation system and the subspace tunnel. Berrine will become a fabulously wealthy and powerful man, at the expense of Earth's starving billions. You will find Berrine and kill him. Assassination, Jansen thought now. Legally, it would be a crime. The civilized worlds would forever be closed to Jansen. But morally it would be anything but a crime. Morally, Jansen would be helping billions of people he would never see, and, if he helped them, he would be from that day forth an outcast who must live out the rest of his life on the far-out worlds. For Ted, he thought. And Earth. Why'd Berrine come here? Jansen asked the girl suspiciously. I thought he runs this show from the subspace tunnel. Sure he does. But periodically he comes here to check on his men. You must have known it. Why did you come here? I couldn't get assigned to the subspace tunnel. I'm no technician. I was going to figure a way in, later. There's no later for you. How much time do you think you have, Jansen? He shrugged, and asked a question of his own. Why are you pretending to help me? Ted and I, he's dead now, remember? Wendy stood up angrily. All right, have it your way. Berrine is here. You're here. I thought that was what you wanted. I told you. Just then the one streamlined swamp buggy Jansen had seen came chugging up through the brackish water. A hatch opened and as it did so Wendy moved quickly away from Jansen. She waded toward the buggy, smiling. A man appeared in the hatch, a big man, big as Jansen and wider. He was younger than Jansen thought he would be. He was handsome and somehow cold-looking. Wendy, my dear, Jansen heard him say. This is a pleasant surprise. Wendy reached the swamp buggy. Berrine, for it was Berrine, leaned over and offered her a hand. He drew her up to him and she turned her cheek for his kiss. Then they disappeared inside the buggy and it chugged away. Jansen sat there for a moment. Berrine, he thought. Berrine and Wendy Hilliard. Well, why not? Hadn't Ted been killed? But why did she come to me? Jansen stood up. His limbs trembled with heat fatigue and he popped 2 salt tablets into his mouth. He began to walk. Hey, you, a supervisor called. Lunch hour's almost over. Where you going? Jansen didn't answer. The swamp buggy, moving slowly through the brown water, was almost out of sight. A dome corridor led from the chlorella bogs to the irrigation station, Jansen knew. The buggy was headed in that direction. I said, "Where you going?" Jansen didn't answer the shouted question. There wasn't time. He ran, splashing through the thigh-deep water, moving clumsily and slowly. Instead of following Berin's buggy, he headed for where the other vehicles were parked. He climbed on one and began to unbolt the hatch when he heard boots on metal behind him. It was the supervisor. "For the last time, buddy," Jansen turned and hit him. The supervisor, an astonished look on his face, stumbled back off the amphibious vehicle and into the swamp. Jansen waited to see that he got up, then slid in through the hatch and started the buggy. There would be an alarm, he knew. But Berin's buggy hadn't been hurrying. If he could overtake it. He chugged along, expecting pursuit momentarily. He rode with the hatch open and his body half out, for best visibility. He saw the other swamp vehicle, perhaps 300 yards ahead. It reached the narrow neck of the domed corridor and paused at the checkpoint there, then went through. Soon Jansen reached the checkpoint. Two men with blasting rifles stood in his path, looking suspicious. "Get out of the way," Jansen called boldly. "I'm Berin's bodyguard." Behind him. "Where would you stay, friend?" The guards exchanged glances. One of them grinned. But the other one said, "We got a report of a guy who..." "I wouldn't be interested in any reports," Jansen said curtly. "Now, do you let me through or do I report you to Berin?" Glances were exchanged again. One of the guards shrugged. They didn't want trouble. Jansen's very boldness was his best weapon. Finally, exchanging glances once more, they waved him on. The second swamp buggy was by then out of sight down the domed corridor. But half an hour later Jansen reached the big, white, squat structure which housed the irrigation machinery. And Berin's streamlined swamp buggy was parked outside on the dry ground. He went inside and an armed man stood in his path. "Well, Berin," Jansen said. "Come and gone, with Miss Hilliard." "But his buggy, who are you?" "Bodyguard," Jansen said promptly. It had worked once. "Hell, then you ought to know." "Why ask me?" "You know Mr. Berin," Jansen said, smiling. "Impulsive. Is he?" "I guess I wouldn't know. Look. Ordinarily I wouldn't mind passing the time of day with you, but I'm not supposed to let Berin out of my sight. So if you'll just tell me where he is." "Show me." "What did you say?" Jansen asked with a sickening realization of what the guard wanted. "You say you're his bodyguard. Show me." Jansen swung his fist in a quick, blurring arc and hit the man. He felt the pain of good contact and the man went over on his back, striking the ground hard. Jansen knelt quickly by his side, he was breathing normally. Quickly Jansen searched him and found a small hand blaster. He pocketed it and got up, dragging the unconscious man into an alcove which housed an inter-office communications system. On impulse, Jansen picked up the microphone and said, "Mr. Perrine, please. This is important." "I'm sorry, sir. Mr. Perrine has taken the subspacer back to the interplanetary subspace tunnel." "Thank you," Jansen said automatically. There was a small subspace tunnel connecting the irrigation station with the big interplanetary space warp, Jansen knew. Even now Perrine and Wendy Hilliard, having inspected the plant, were 100,000 miles away, in deep space, at the tunnel station. While Jansen was thinking, the communications system board flashed and a voice said, "Emergency! Emergency! Someone has stolen a buggy and is believed heading for the irrigation station. He may be armed and is probably dangerous." Jansen acknowledged the information, then said, "The buggy just passed this way, but it kept going." "You're sure?" "Positive." "Thanks. We'll relay the information." That ruse would give him a few minutes, Jansen knew. But for what purpose? Perrine and Wendy Hilliard. If they used the subspace tunnel, why couldn't he? He left the alcove and charged down a brightly lit hallway, passing a cavern-sized room athrob with banks of machinery. A technician looked up at him and Jansen said, "The subspacer. Hurry, man. This is urgent." The technician pointed, spoke. Jansen followed his directions on the dead run. When he reached it, he saw what looked like a Vodafone booth in a large, otherwise empty room. But Vodafone booths don't usually have armed guards. "This is for Mr. Perrine's private use," the guard said, brandishing a blasting rifle. "Better beat it. No ruses here." This guard would know. This was one of Perrine's private thugs, probably. Jansen took a breath and dove at him. The blaster roared, searing air over Jansen's head. He hit the guard's middle and they went down together, the rifle falling from the guard's grasp. They rolled over and over, then the guard got to his knees and clubbed an elbow at Jansen's jaw. Jansen rolled on his back, his face suddenly numb. The guard dove for him, pinned him and called for help. Jansen struggled frantically. He heard footsteps pounding toward them, then brought his legs up and scissored the guard's throat, pulling him down and away. Jansen released the scissors abruptly and scrambled to his feet. He made it to the subspace booth and pulled the door open. There was a single lever inside and he yanked at it as he slammed the transparent door. He felt nothing at first. He saw the guard retrieve his rifle, pointing it at the booth and firing. But the blast of raw energy never reached Jansen. For he was already being transported through subspace. He had no time to marshal his thoughts. The first thing he saw through the transparent door of the twin booth 100,000 miles away on the subspace station, was Perrine. Perrine was standing just outside the booth, holding a blaster. He was pointing the blaster at Wendy Hilliard, whose face was white. Jansen opened the door and Perrine's deep voice ended with, "To kill you now." Jansen turned quickly and fired his blaster not at Perrine but at the controls of the subspace booth. This way, he hoped, they wouldn't be interrupted. "This way, Jansen!" Wendy screamed. Perrine whirled, facing Jansen. His eyes widened and as he fired the blaster Jansen felt a numbing pain in his right leg. The blaster had merely seared him, he knew. But if Perrine had time for another try. Jansen leaped at him and they went crashing across the room toward another, and larger, subspace booth. Jansen was exhausted. The quick pursuit, the fight at the irrigation center, the unfamiliar activity at the chlorella bogs, had drained most of the energy from his body. And Perrine was strong. He slowly forced Jansen back, choking him. Jansen's hands waved weakly in front of his face, fluttering uselessly. Perrine was going to kill him, as he had killed his brother. Jansen's vision swam. Balls of flame seared before his eyes. He was dimly aware of Wendy clawing at Perrine's back, but the big man pushed her away, then hurled her across the room with one outflung arm. Jansen butted with his head. He brought his knee up. He swung his fists and felt contact with Perrine's face. But Perrine held onto his throat with one large hand, getting the other one free to use the blaster. He brought it up slowly, and Jansen forgot about the hand about his throat. He reached for the blaster, struggling for possession of it with Perrine. He butted again and saw a bloody smear where Perrine's mouth had been. The blaster was between them. And roared. Perrine slumped against him and the pressure was suddenly gone from his throat. When he looked down at Perrine he saw that the man's entire face had been shot away. "I was working for your brother," Wendy sobbed. "I never gave up. I was gathering evidence about what Perrine planned. You came just in time. He was going to give his ultimatum to Earth today. Triple the price, or no chlorella. They'd have had to say yes." Feet pounded in a corridor, came closer. "We won," Jansen said. "But now, we're finished. Quick!" Wendy cried, pulling him toward the larger subspace booth. "It connects with Earth. I can't return to Earth. I've just killed a man. Self-defense. I saw you. Besides, we have the proof that Perrine was going to bleed Earth dry for chlorella. The Outworlds," he said. "You don't have to hide on the Outworlds now." "Hide, nothing," Jansen said, smiling weakly but happily the split second before they were whisked 70 million miles through subspace. "If you're not a fugitive, the Outworlds are wonderful. Maybe you'd like." He was going to say, "like to join me." It was an impulse he couldn't explain, as if the depths of subspace drew a man's secret desires from his unconscious mind. and as they began to materialize on Earth he heard Wendy's voice, as if from far away, "Maybe I'd like to try that." End of the Project Gutenberg ebook. Trouble on Sunside. Updated editions will replace the previous one, the old editions will be renamed. Creating the works from print editions not protected by U.S. copyright law means that no one owns a United States copyright in these works, so the Foundation, and you, can copy and distribute it in the United States without permission and without paying copyright royalties. Special rules, set forth in the general terms of use part of this license, apply to copying and distributing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol concept and trademark. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark, and may not be used if you charge for an ebook, except by following the terms of the trademark license, including paying royalties for use of the Project Gutenberg trademark. If you do not charge anything for copies of this ebook, complying with the trademark license is very easy. You may use this ebook for nearly any purpose such as creation of derivative works, reports, performances and research. Project Gutenberg ebooks may be modified and printed and given away. You may do practically anything in the United States with ebooks not protected by U.S. copyright law. Redistribution is subject to the trademark license, especially commercial redistribution. Start. Full license. The full Project Gutenberg license. Please read this before you distribute or use this work to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol mission of promoting the free distribution of electronic works. By using or distributing this work, or any other work associated in any way with the phrase Project Gutenberg, you agree to comply with all the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license available with this file or online at www.gutenberg.org/license. Section 1. General Terms of Use and Redistributing Project Gutenberg Trademark Symbol Electronic Works 1.0. By reading or using any part of this Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work, you indicate that you have read, understand, agree to and accept all the terms of this license and intellectual property, trademark/copyright, agreement. If you do not agree to abide by all the terms of this agreement, you must cease using and return or destroy all copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works in your possession. If you paid a fee for obtaining a copy of or access to a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work and you do not agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement, you may obtain a refund from the person or entity to whom you paid the fee as set forth in paragraph 1.e.8. 1.b. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark. It may only be used on or associated in any way with an electronic work by people who agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement. There are a few things that you can do with most Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works even without complying with the full terms of this agreement. See paragraph 1.c below. There are a lot of things you can do with Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works if you follow the terms of this agreement and help preserve free future access to Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works. See paragraph 1.e below. 1.c. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the foundation or PGLAF, owns a compilation copyright in the collection of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works. Nearly all the individual works in the collection are in the public domain in the United States. If an individual work is unprotected by copyright law in the United States and you are located in the United States, we do not claim a right to prevent you from copying, distributing, performing, displaying or creating derivative works based on the work as long as all references to Project Gutenberg are removed. Of course, we hope that you will support the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol mission of promoting free access to electronic works by freely sharing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works in compliance with the terms of this agreement for keeping the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol name associated with the work. You can easily comply with the terms of this agreement by keeping this work in the same format with its attached full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license when you share it without charge with others. 1.d. The copyright laws of the place where you are located also govern what you can do with this work. Copyright laws in most countries are in a constant state of change. If you are outside the United States, check the laws of your country in addition to the terms of this agreement before downloading, copying, displaying, performing, distributing or creating derivative works based on this work or any other Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work. The Foundation makes no representations concerning the copyright status of any work in any country other than the United States. 1.e Unless you have removed all references to Project Gutenberg. 1.e.1. The following sentence, with active links to, or other immediate access to, the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license must appear prominently whenever any copy of a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work, any work on which the phrase Project Gutenberg appears, or with which the phrase Project Gutenberg is associated, is accessed, displayed, performed, viewed, copied or distributed. This ebook is for the use of anyone anywhere in the United States and most other parts of the world at no cost and with almost no restrictions whatsoever. You may copy it, give it away or reuse it under the terms of the Project Gutenberg license included with this ebook or online at www.gutenberg.org. If you are not located in the United States, you will have to check the laws of the country where you are located before using this ebook. 1.e.2. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work is derived from texts not protected by U.S. copyright law, does not contain a notice indicating that it is posted with permission of the copyright holder, the work can be copied and distributed to anyone in the United States without paying any fees or charges. If you are redistributing or providing access to a work with the phrase Project Gutenberg associated with or appearing on the work, You must comply either with the requirements of paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 or obtain permission for the use of the work and the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark as set forth in paragraphs 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.3. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work is posted with the permission of the copyright holder, your use and distribution must comply with both paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 and any additional terms imposed by the copyright holder. Additional terms will be linked to the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license for all works posted with the permission of the copyright holder found at the beginning of this work. 1.e.4. Do not unlink or detach or remove the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license terms from this work, or any files containing a part of this work or any other work associated with Project Gutenberg trademark symbol. 1.e.5. Do not copy, display, perform, distribute or redistribute this electronic work, or any part of this electronic work, without prominently displaying the sentence set forth in paragraph 1.e.1 with active links or immediate access to the full terms of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license. 1.e.6. You may convert to and distribute this work in any binary, compressed, marked up, non-proprietary or proprietary form, including any word processing or hypertext form. However, if you provide access to or distribute copies of a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work in a format other than plain vanilla ASCII or other format used in the official version posted on the official Project Gutenberg trademark symbol website, www.gutenberg.org, you must, at no additional cost, fee or expense to the user, provide a copy, a means of exporting a copy, or a means of obtaining a copy upon request, of the work in its original plain vanilla ASCII or other form. Any alternate format must include the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license as specified in paragraph 1.e.1. 1.e.7. Do not charge a fee for access to, viewing, displaying, performing, copying or distributing any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works unless you comply with paragraph 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.8. You may charge a reasonable fee for copies of or providing access to or distributing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works provided that you pay a royalty fee of 20% of the gross profits you derive from the use of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works calculated using the method you already use to calculate your applicable taxes. The fee is owed to the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark, but he has agreed to donate royalties under this paragraph to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Royalty payments must be paid within 60 days following each date on which you prepare, or are legally required to prepare, your periodic tax returns. Royalty payments should be clearly marked as such and sent to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation at the address specified in Section 4, Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. You provide a full refund of any money paid by a user who notifies you in writing, or by email, within 30 days of receipt that S/he does not agree to the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license. You must require such a user to return or destroy all copies of the works possessed in a physical medium and discontinue all use of and all access to other copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works. You provide, in accordance with paragraph 1.f.3, a full refund of any money paid for a work or a replacement copy, if a defect in the electronic work is discovered and reported to you within 90 days of receipt of the work. You comply with all other terms of this agreement for free distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works. 1.e.9. If you wish to charge a fee or distribute a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work or group of works on different terms than are set forth in this agreement, you must obtain permission in writing from the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the manager of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark. Contact the Foundation as set forth in Section 3 below. 1.f1.f.1 Project Gutenberg volunteers and employees expend considerable effort to identify, do copyright research on, transcribe and proofread works not protected by U.S. copyright law in creating the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol collection. Despite these efforts, Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works, and the medium on which they may be stored, may contain defects such as, but not limited to, incomplete, inaccurate or corrupt data, transcription errors, a copyright or other intellectual property infringement, a defective or damaged disk or other medium, a computer virus, or computer codes that damage or cannot be read by your equipment. 1.f.2 Limited warranty, disclaimer of damages, except for the right of replacement or refund described in paragraph 1.f.3, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark, and any other party distributing a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work under this agreement, disclaim all liability to you for damages, costs and expenses, including legal fees. You agree that you have no remedies for negligence, strict liability, breach of warranty or breach of contract except those provided in paragraph 1.f.3. You agree that the Foundation, the trademark owner, and any distributor under this agreement will not be liable to you for actual, direct, indirect, consequential, punitive or incidental damages even if you give notice of the possibility of such damage. 1.f.3 Limited right of replacement or refund. If you discover a defect in this electronic work within 90 days of receiving it, you can receive a refund of the money, if any, you paid for it by sending a written explanation to the person you received the work from. If you received the work on a physical medium, you must return the medium with your written explanation. The person or entity that provided you with the defective work may elect to provide a replacement copy in lieu of a refund. If you received the work electronically, the person or entity providing it to you may choose to give you a second opportunity to receive the work electronically in lieu of a refund. If the second copy is also defective, you may demand a refund in writing without further opportunities to fix the problem. 1.f.4 Except for the limited right of replacement or refund set forth in paragraph 1.f.3, this work is provided to you as is, with no other warranties of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to warranties of merchantability or fitness for any purpose. 1.f.5 Some states do not allow disclaimers of certain implied warranties or the exclusion or limitation of certain types of damages. If any disclaimer or limitation set forth in this agreement violates the law of the state applicable to this agreement, the agreement shall be interpreted to make the maximum disclaimer or limitation permitted by the applicable state law. The invalidity or unenforceability of any provision of this agreement shall not void the remaining provisions. 1.f.6 Indemnity. You agree to indemnify and hold the foundation, the trademark owner, any agent or employee of the foundation, anyone providing copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works in accordance with this agreement, and any volunteers associated with the production, promotion and distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works, harmless from all liability, costs and expenses, including legal fees, that arise directly or indirectly from any of the following which you do or cause to occur. A. Distribution of this or any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work. B. Alteration, modification, or additions or deletions to any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work, and C. Any defect you cause. Section 2. Information about the mission of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol is synonymous with the free distribution of electronic works in formats readable by the widest variety of computers, including obsolete, old, middle-aged and new computers. It exists because of the efforts of hundreds of volunteers and donations from people in all walks of life. Volunteers and financial support to provide volunteers with the assistance they need are critical to reaching Project Gutenberg trademark symbol's goals and ensuring that the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol collection will remain freely available for generations to come. In 2001, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation was created to provide a secure and permanent future for Project Gutenberg trademark symbol and future generations. To learn more about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation and how your efforts and donations can help, see sections 3 and 4 and the Foundation information page at www.gutenberg.org. Section 3. Information about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation is a non-profit 501(c)(3) educational corporation organized under the laws of the state of Mississippi and granted tax-exempt status by the Internal Revenue Service. The Foundation's IN or Federal Tax Identification Number is 64-6221541. Contributions to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation are tax-deductible to the full extent permitted by U.S. federal laws and your state's laws. The Foundation's business office is located at 809 North 1500 West, Salt Lake City, UT 84116, 801-596-1887. Email contact links and up-to-date contact information can be found at the Foundation's website and official page at www.gutenberg.org/contact section 4. Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol depends upon and cannot survive without widespread public support and donations to carry out its mission of increasing the number of public domain and licensed works that can be freely distributed in machine-readable form accessible by the widest array of equipment including outdated equipment. Many small donations, $1 to $5,000, are particularly important to maintaining tax-exempt status with the IRS. The Foundation is committed to complying with the laws regulating charities and charitable donations in all 50 states of the United States. Compliance requirements are not uniform and it takes a considerable effort, much paperwork and many fees to meet and keep up with these requirements. We do not solicit donations in locations where we have not received written confirmation of compliance. To send donations or determine the status of compliance for any particular state, visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. While we cannot and do not solicit contributions from states where we have not met the solicitation requirements, we know of no prohibition against accepting unsolicited donations from donors in such states who approach us with offers to donate. International donations are gratefully accepted, but we cannot make any statements concerning tax treatment of donations received from outside the United States. U.S. laws alone swamp our small staff. Please check the Project Gutenberg web pages for current donation methods and addresses. Donations are accepted in a number of other ways including checks, online payments and credit card donations. To donate, please visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. Section 5. General information about Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works. Professor Michael S. Hart was the originator of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol concept of a library of electronic works that could be freely shared with anyone. For 40 years, he produced and distributed Project Gutenberg trademark symbol ebooks with only a loose network of volunteer support. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol ebooks are often created from several printed editions, all of which are confirmed as not protected by copyright in the U.S. unless a copyright notice is included. Thus, we do not necessarily keep ebooks in compliance with any particular paper edition. Most people start at our website, which has the main PG search facility, www.gutenberg.org. This website includes information about Project Gutenberg trademark symbol, including how to make donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, how to help produce our new ebooks, and how to subscribe to our email newsletter to hear about new ebooks.